What I'm talking about today is really a whole food plant-based diet, which is what Dr. Will mentioned earlier. I like this cartoon because this is really kind of a picture of our allopathic medical system and theology right now. Instead of putting fences at the top of the cliff, we put ambulances at the bottom when people drive off of it. And that, Dr. Michael Greger, who heads up nutritionfacts.org, is a great website if you want to check out anything about anything related to nutrition. He said that this actually is the disparity between prevention and mere mitigation of suffering can be a metaphor for modern medicine. I actually learned this when my daughter Christina was in first grade. She was in the doctor's office, every couple of weeks, being put on antibiotics for upper respiratory stuff. At the end of her first grade year, the doctor said, I want you to take her tonsils and adenoids out. I immediately screeched on the brakes, and I said, I don't know. Number one, I don't want my little baby cut on. And number two, I think God, and I wasn't even a believer at that time, I think that these things are put in the body for a reason, and they have a purpose. And so I started really looking into some stuff, found out that dairy could be a major problem with any kind of mucus issues. We were vegetarian, but we were eating dairy, got her off of dairy, did some homeopathic remedies that have been around forever in Europe, which really just encourage your own immune system. And she is 37 today with tonsils and adenoids. And so I'm so grateful for that because our tonsils and adenoids are such a key component to our health. And I tell you that not to make you feel guilty if you had your kids' tonsils and adenoids out or if you had yours out, but to tell you that that's what God used in my life before I even believed in Him to get me on this path. So I found out that your body is the most amazing, miraculous, self-healing mechanism that there is. And God created it that way. When you get cut, what happens? Your body goes to work right away to bring healing to that area. And it's the same way internally. So I believe that it's not the fault of the design of our bodies that is the problem today, it's the maintenance that is the problem. As I mentioned, 86% of graduating doctors felt they were inadequately trained to counsel patients about diets. Only a quarter of medical schools offer a single course in nutrition, which is down 37% from 30 years ago. That is problematic in my opinion. I love what Dan Buettner, who is the author of The Blue Zone, said, if you want to live to 100, eat like healthy people who've lived to 100. And that's really the reality of it. When you get a headache and you take an aspirin, does that mean you had an aspirin deficiency? No, of course it doesn't. Drugs actually create other challenges in the body that make the initial symptoms seem like it goes away, but it, like Dr. Will talked about, it doesn't deal with the root cause. And so what we're talking about here is really equipping your body so that it can be the self-healing mechanism that God created it to be. So let's look really quickly at the results of a failed system in case you're not aware of this. Global spending for prescription drugs is greater than $1 trillion annually, and the United States takes up a third of that. 70% of Americans take at least one prescription drug every day. The U.S. ranks 28th among 34 top free market democracies in life expectancy. Living fewer healthy years than before is what we're experiencing. And they're predicting that the youth of today will have a shorter life expectancy than their parents, that their bad food choices will finally have caught up. Most doctor visits are for preventable diseases. And Dr. Will, I'm sure, confirm that. So let's look quickly at the top 15 causes of death in America. Absolutely, the majority of these are preventable. Now I want you to notice the third leading cause of death in America is called iatrogenic causes. And what that is that means that they died as a result of medicine. Whether it was from prescription drugs, whether it's from a doctor error, hospital error, that is the third leading cause of death in America. And a lot of times what happens is we're confused because there's so much information out there, isn't there? I mean, you can find a chocolate diet, you can find a high meat diet, a high carb diet, a high protein diet, a low carb diet. I mean, you can find whatever you want out there because of the internet. But is it based on science? And a lot of it isn't. So this is the doctor telling the patient, I want you to follow a healthy lifestyle, whatever the experts think that is this week. And that's really kind of how it is. And so I hope to clear up some ignorance today. And I love the blue zones, and I'm keeping mention that because I love the blue zones because just look at the results. You know, a lot of people promote a keto diet, a ketogenic diet, but no groups in the longevity studies show a ketogenic diet helps you live a long time. So yeah, it's good for losing weight and certain things, but it's not going to help you live a long time. So if your goal is to live to 100, don't do a keto diet. One of the first times I learned about how powerful food as medicine is and how powerful God's created foods are, the original diet in Genesis 1:29 is plant foods. It's fruits and vegetables. God said, I give you every seed-bearing green on the face of the earth. This shall be food for you. And so this is my friend Gigi, who it's been about, in 1996, she was diagnosed with stage 3 going into stage 4 breast cancer. And I got a call, I did not know her at the time, to go over and see her. And I went over, shared the message of nutrition and juicing and all of that for cancer. And she overcame that cancer.
Wow.
She gave up all the way, and she gives God total credit, but he showed her how all the things to do, including his ideal diet. And she gave up all of those things, got back to an unhealthy lifestyle, and she's dealing with it again. But I have 100% belief that she will beat it again, and she'll never go back after this. We stay in very close contact. But it showed me the power of plant foods to heal the body. And I tell people, here's the thing. The things that I know cure cancer, which are plant foods, and the one diet that has been shown to reverse coronary artery disease, which is the #1 cause of death in America, is a whole food plant-based diet. So my philosophy is, people say, oh yeah, that's great for heart disease. Well, if it's good for reversing heart disease and cancer, why wouldn't it be good for everyday living? But I tend to think real logically, and so that's, the way I am. So what did we learn from the blue zones? We learned that 90 to 100% from, basically 90 to 100% of your calories from plant foods is the ideal diet. The blue zones eat beans daily. So legumes and beans are a superfood that I'll talk about. They slash sugar. And if you look at what average American consumes in sugar, it's a lot. They snack on nuts. Nuts and seeds are very healthy, but in moderation, not sitting there and eating 2 cups of nuts. They ate a whole food diet, so they didn't go out and eat processed foods, and they didn't go to fast food restaurants and all of that. They ate whole foods. And we need to get back to that, and we've gotten very far away from that in this country because we're all too busy. And they drank mostly water. And I will say that Blue Zone's diets include about a glass or 2 of red wine a day. That doesn't mean if you don't drink red wine that you should start drinking red wine, but they did drink red wine every day. But they mostly drank water. They also they show that they drink coffee. And so we want to drink most of our liquids as water. Get rid of the soft drinks and all those things that are not contributing to your health. My deal is I'm 63 years old, and it's like, I don't think I can afford putting that stuff in my body at this age, And I fortunately thought that a long time ago and stopped, but, let's just look at what actually nourishes our body. So beans are the dietary fountain of youth. They are the most important predictor of survival in older people. They found that the oldest people eat beans daily. They're consistently associated with a longer lifespan. They're associated with slimmer waist. They help lower blood pressure. They regulate blood sugar and insulin levels. They lower cholesterol. They reduce your risk of stroke, depression, and colon cancer. And soy actually prevents and improves breast cancer survival, which I won't talk about today because you guys are guys, but just keep that in mind for your wives. For every 20 grams, which is 2 tablespoons increase in daily legume intake, research shows an 8% reduction in the risk of premature death. That's pretty impressive.
It is.
2 tablespoons a day reduces your risk of death by 8%. So, there's all kinds of beans. It's on the handout that I gave you. Hummus is a bean, so, a lot of people like hummus, but incorporate beans into your diet daily to help you live longer. They're packed with all kinds of great things, which I don't have time to go into. But get the Blue Zones and you'll see all this. But you want to aim for at least 3 servings a day of beans, which is a quarter cup of hummus, a half a cup of cooked beans, and 1 cup of sprouted things like fresh peas. So another one of the top 7 foods to prevent disease and give you a longer, healthier life is our berries, and that's what we got today. They're delicious, right, for your dessert. They protect against cancer. They boost your immune system. They guard against the liver and brain. They protect against cardiovascular disease. They are the healthiest fruit on the planet. And the darker, the better. So basically, here's the deal. The darker fruits and vegetables are, the better for you they are. So the darker they are, the more nutrition they have. So blackberries punch a whopping powerhouse of nutrition more than any other fruit or vegetable. They win the prize. Almost twice as much as strawberries, by the way. So you want to make sure, and berries help with all kinds of things, inflammation, gout, brain health, all kinds of good stuff. So eat a lot of berries and eat them every day. Other fruits are important too. They are the best fast food on the planet. Grabbing a banana, an apple, an orange, whatever on the way out is your best fast food. They give you a quick energy source. They're anything with a seed within them, so tomatoes are technically a fruit. And citrus fruit is the best for DNA repair. As we age, we want that, right?
Yeah, those free radicals.
And we live in a perfect state for citrus. So you want to eat 3 servings a day. A serving is a medium-sized fruit like a banana or an apple, or a quarter cup of dried fruit, or a cup of things like berries. But one of the things that they found in this very large global burden of disease study was that the #1 risk factor of early death was not enough fruit consumption. So you want to eat fruit. And unfortunately, diets like paleo and keto and all of that have made fruit our enemy, but they're not. They're God's original food. Cruciferous vegetables, that's things like broccoli, bok choy, cabbage. All of those things are cruciferous vegetables. We want to eat them because they're the #1 food to prevent cancer. They prevent DNA damage. They defend against pathogens and pollutants, and we do deal with those in our world. They detox the body. Raw is better, so eating broccoli and dipped in maybe some hummus, you can get 2 things knocked out right there. And they protect your brain and vision. So you want to eat cruciferous foods every day. And that's one thing they found in the blue zones, was people ate cruciferous vegetables every day. Greens are our healthiest foods. Things like kale, broccoli of course is green. They are the most nutritious food per calorie. They found that daily consumption of greens increases your lifespan. They give you the strongest protection against chronic disease. And some of the nutrients are fat soluble. So you notice today when we had our green salad that we also had walnuts to eat with them and avocados. So you actually absorb the nutrients better when you have a little fat with them. So a lot of times I like to eat my quarter cup of nuts or seeds with my salad at night. You want at least 2 servings a day, which is a cup of raw or a half a cup of cooked. They are a wonderful source of bioavailable calcium. Dairy has a lot of issues when it comes to calcium. Yes, it has a lot of calcium, but because of how acidic it is, it actually robs calcium out of your bones. So dairy actually, despite what the Dairy Council will tell you, actually thins your bones. Greens are actually blood thinners too. So other vegetables is another one of the longevity foods. And we want variety, so we want a variety of colors today. That's one thing you'll notice with the lunch that we just had, is we had a very colorful lunch, right? And so a lot of times what people do is they eat 1 or 2 things, and so they're not really getting a variety. Oh, yeah, people tell me all the time, oh yeah, I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. What do you eat? Oh, I have a banana for lunch, and I have lettuce and tomato on my sandwich. Well, that's not enough variety. You want all colors of the rainbow. The darker the color, the more nutritious, as I mentioned. Eat the peel if possible, because that's where most of the nutrients are, or a lot of the nutrients are. Sweet potato peels have dramatically more nutrients than the actual sweet potato. Obviously, eat as many whole as possible. And choose organic when possible, especially if you look at the Dirty Dozen list, and you can find that at ewg.org. So you want 2 servings a day of other vegetables. Whole grains, you're welcome. You probably guys don't really worry about grains, but a lot of people do. They think grains are bad too. That's thanks to the keto and paleo camps. But whole grains actually are really consistently show that they lead to longevity. All the blue zones eat whole grains, things like rice and whole wheat and oats and all of those things. So the whole grains are actually a very important component to health. The Harvard's Nurses Health Study and Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, which accumulated 3 million person data, looked at and found that people who eat more whole grains tend to live significantly longer lives independent of other dietary and lifestyle factors. Whole grains have a lot of fiber. All of these foods have a lot of fiber, you notice. You know, people ask me all the time in the 47 years or whatever it's been since I've not eaten animal products, where do you get your protein? Well, number one, I've never had a protein deficiency, and no one that I know of ever has a protein. We're obsessed with protein in this country, and there's a great book called Proteinaholic if you want to read about that. But instead, I need to say, you know, when I respond back, where do you get your fiber? Where do you get your phytochemicals? You know, people, again, we need to be more focused on fiber and phytochemicals than we are on protein. Whole grains reduce your risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and stroke. They reduce inflammation in the body. And you want to follow a 5-to-1 rule, which I don't really have time to go into, but if you're reading your bread label, a lot of breads, actually they'll say whole wheat or something like that, but they're not really when you go down into the label. And again, we're talking about whole, so we want as few ingredients as possible on your labels. So you don't want labels that have big, long ingredients. So just to mention other powerhouses besides those 7 foods, and I'm almost done, John. Spices such as turmeric are really, really good for you. They've been shown to help your brain, inflammation, all kinds of stuff. So taking like a half a teaspoon of turmeric every day, it is fat soluble as well. So what I like to do is take after dinner, maybe like a half teaspoon of turmeric, with a little bit of organic peanut butter, a little bit of maple syrup or honey, and it's like a peanut butter fudge, and it's really delicious. Now, black pepper makes the nutrients in turmeric like 300 times more bioavailable. So I always put black pepper on my food. So you don't need a lot of black pepper, but it really makes it a lot more absorbable. Green tea is excellent. It also helps prevent COVID. We're not going to talk about that. Water, of course, which we already talked about. Flaxseed or some kind of essential fatty acids. Nuts and seeds, snack on those. This is my friend Isabel, who came to me, and she's a beautiful Cuban Christian friend of mine, and she came to me with extremely high blood pressure that hospitalized her. And she asked me what to do. I told her to go on a whole food plant-based diet. She went from 4 blood pressure pills in 6 months. She went from 4 blood pressure pills a day to a half a pill in 6 months, and she's now working on getting rid of that. That's an 88% improvement just from changing her diet. She was like, I'm not taking these drugs the rest of my life. This is my friend Lorna, and on the left, she's another person. In 1998, she had breast cancer. She's still cancer-free at 83 years young, and she followed this food as medicine protocol that I recommended. When people have cancer, my recommendation is lots of juicing and things like that, raw foods, and she followed it and was able to beat it. In closing, you want to begin with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey said in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind. What do you want your life to be like when you're 80, 90 years old, 100 hopefully? Let's really work on living to 100, because as Christians, I think it'd be great if we led the way. So begin with the end in mind and think, okay, one of the things I tell people is your future health starts now. It actually started back there, but we can't do anything about back there. We can do something about now. So your future health starts now. So begin with that end in mind. What do you want it to look like? Eat more fruits and veggies as if your life depended on it, because it does. Aim for the daily dozen, well, daily. And you can find the daily dozen at nutritionfacts.org. I've got the link on the handout that I gave you. Make you a priority, and you can join our group sessions when they come out. I'm working on a book that hopefully will be published this month, and we'll be starting groups to really teach this whole lifestyle. And mostly have fun, because, you know, the reality is, I used to tell my kids when they were little, if they didn't like something, I'd say, well, that's okay, you get new taste buds in 21 days. So in 21 days, you'll like it. So, you know, if you don't like some of these foods that I've mentioned, Eat them for 21 days and you'll find that you like them because your taste buds do change. When we eat things like processed foods, sugar, junk, all of that, they're very, very addicting. I heard a food scientist speak one time. He was a PhD food scientist that worked for big food companies. And he said they actually can put basically appetite stimulants in food and not have them listed on the label. So truly you can't just eat one Lay's potato chip. So when you get that stuff out of your diet, you'll find you like things like fruits and vegetables. And fasting is a great way to get you to like them because do a 7-day water fast and afterwards everything will taste wonderful. And I tell people, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? Because it is what carries us around on planet Earth. Yes, you can go to heaven, but are you getting there a little too early? Maybe in today's world we want to go to heaven earlier. I don't know. But Dr. Neil Barnard, who's one of my mentors with the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine, said plant-based diets are the nutritional equivalent of quitting smoking. Realize that today is the first day of the rest of your life. Your future health starts here. I hope that you will start incorporating these foods of longevity into your lifestyle, and you will notice more energy, better health, more mental clarity, and all of that kind of stuff. And I propose that if you do all of that stuff that we talked about, as well as exercising and all that stuff we mentioned as well, then you can go to the doctor and they'll say you have a rare condition called good health. Frankly, we don't know how to treat it. And I can promise you Will would love to say that to his patients. So thank you so much. I appreciate your attention.